Haere mai. Welcome to Christchurch.
Here's Bell under the clear. Flying George Bell. Oh my goodness. Crusaders have finally done it.
They've got it from the scrum. Under advantage. TJ Perenara goes in for his 60th try.
It's the dream finish for the Rebels.
White swords on the bench.
Tom Wright does it all himself.
It's Mark Delia who gets his third hat-trick on the board for the Blues Flyers.
There's a little kick through for Marcius is a try time to the group.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Good evening, welcome into the breakdown and a very happy Easter to you all. We do hope you're enjoying your long weekend break. Plenty of rugby to talk about this weekend. We've got an update on Cam Roigard and Stephen Pedofeta, and unfortunately the news doesn't look great for either of those two players. The Crusaders claw one back and Ardie Savea reignites the All Blacks eligibility debate. We'll talk about that right throughout the program. Jeff Wilson, Sir John Kerwin, Mills Muliaina, has the Easter Bunny delivered at your house this weekend?
The Easter Bunny came way too early for me, I'll tell you that. I had to go out and collect some Easter eggs, and I've had far too much.
Far too much chocolate because you've got young children.
I have. My boys are out there so early, man. They've been good, and so have I, because I got lots of it too, so I've been pretty good for the Easter Bunny.
And so you're sugar high and you're starting to crash now, are you, JK?
No sugar for me. Lamb on the spit, actually. 7 hours in front of the fire. A couple of red wines.
Is that every weekend for you, though?
That's not
It's
Easter.
not just Easter. Let's be fair. Come on now. I've got one question. Why are they all sitting right there?
Well, I was going to be the Easter Bunny
Oh, were
today,
you? Is
so
that-
there you go. If you're not all chocolated out.
Well, he doesn't want yours. I'll let yours.
I don't actually need any of these, to be honest with you. But they'll sit there throughout the program. I think our camera people, they're already eyeing up this chocolate.
Beautiful.
Anyway, it's been a good weekend of rugby. Your team, the Crusaders, have clawed one back and all of a sudden look like world beaters. Just something that you mentioned to me on Friday when you were in Christchurch, Jeff. You said, you know, all of a sudden the fans are treating me really nice down in Christchurch. You felt right at home.
Rob Penny came up and said, thanks very much, I appreciate your support, all those sorts of things. I said, it doesn't change where I'm from. All I was saying, I said I'm an analyst. I'm looking at the form, making some decisions, but guess what? They now need to win 4 games, gentlemen. 4 more games in the rest of the competition.
They
were
really
really
good. Can we hold on?
It was a desperate performance. And they
Let's hold those thoughts for a moment because we've got a little treat for you, a little Easter weekend
treat. I knew I was being
treat.
set up. I knew the Crusaders are going to win the title again.
Again.
I'm looking at the depth that you have in key positions and the fact that when it comes to those games in May and June, when the pressure comes on and knowing how to win, I still think they're going to be part of the picture later on in the season. But what's crucial for them now, these early losses means that it gets really difficult to control your destiny in terms of home field advantage.
And they love.
Hey, Jeff Wilson, man, thank you. Thanks for believing in us and for your support. You know, the South, we stay tight. Even though you're a Landers fan, you know, we stay tight in the South. So thanks, brother. Keep it up, eh? Love your work, Bruss.
Look, so,
We've got something special for you, Jeff. Here is a letter from the CEO of the Crusaders, Colin Mansbridge. It says, Jeff, thanks for the support, mate. It means the world. We're hugely proud of who we are and the people we play for, including you. We remain ambitious and focused, and words of encouragement, especially from those outside the region, just makes us stronger. You're welcome at Rugby Park anytime, Goldie. The doors will always be open to legends like you. Ma pango, ma whiro, ka oti te mahi. And they've sent up a wee treat as well. You've got a proper signed copy of that letter just to take home and frame because we know you appreciate the memorabilia. And this is for you. Your favourite new colours, signed by the entire team.
I'm glad you guys are finding this amusing. You know,
That's great. I think
There you
it's
go,
good.
Jeff.
you know, look, I appreciate it. I really do.
I think
really
it's good, though. It's lovely.
That is signed by the
think it's
class of
nice.
2024, and according to you, they will be champions this year.
That could be worth a lot of money.
I think it's
Jersey
good.
right
I think
there.
it's great. I think it's great they've done that.
No,
I'm serious. I'm not being cynical. I think it's fantastic. You stuck to your guns.
Well, look,
I didn't
the
think...
one
I like how he said he's an analyst. He analysed the fact he was going down to Christchurch on the weekend and said they're going to win.
And I do realise they're building a beautiful new stadium down there, and a car park up front would be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, you haven't even got one at Eden Park, let's be honest. No, I look at what they did in the weekend, and if you wanted to make a statement, and I looked
Where did
in the
that come
warm-up.
from?
It came from...
Desperation.
Yeah, you're right. It was desperate. And that's the way that they
They
played.
had to win.
And desperate
And they did.
is defence. And when you think about their defence, particularly early on in the game, and this was a Chiefs team that didn't have their most dangerous weapon. So it made it really difficult for them to play. I will say this, though. They had, I think, a couple of things go their way even before the game where they had to play young halfback in Noah Hotham. And I think Mills have made a significant difference about, I suppose, a different energy and a look at their attack.
And a different mindset in terms of the fact, well, hey, I'm going to go out there and, we've already lost 5 in a row and I'm going to do something a little bit different. So there was always that element. They were almost there, in a couple of games. The Chiefs, obviously, the first and then the first round.
It's always the Chiefs that they're so close with.
The final, right, last year as well. But I said last week, the bye is going to be their friend, but it's even more so now because now they're on a bit of a high. They go into the bye, they freshen up, hopefully get some guys back, and then they come back and hit the Aussie teams.
I disagree, Mills. I thought they were terrible.
You thought the Crusaders were terrible?
The Crusaders were terrible up until last weekend. I thought their line-out was dysfunctional. I thought they were turning over the ball. They were an average super side. I just told you.
But we're talking about this weekend.
Yeah, but I didn't see that performance coming, right? The thing they did great is I bet you the Chiefs thought, let's attack their line-out, and they just tapped and go. I agree with you with the young halfback. He reminded me a little bit of Marshy, darting around the fringes, having a go, not worrying about stuff. So I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it in their performance, and I think it's fantastic that you've been supporting him since that goal, because I didn't see it, right? Now, when you look at their draw, you go, yeah, they are in with a shark, but they need to play desperate again next week. They still need to sort their line out. They still need to do a few things to get themselves through.
They're in an unusual situation. They probably want a game next week now.
Yeah.
When you finally played well and you might have discovered who you are, but they're going to welcome back some bodies.
Three players come back straight after the bye. So they've got Ethan Blackadder, Fergus Burke and Christian Leo Willie, who are all back. But what about these young players like Noah Hotham, Jamie Hanna, having George Bell playing like he's some athlete as a hooker, and then the older ones coming back like Johnny McNichol and the experience they've brought to this team. They look like a different side, Jeff.
Yeah, sometimes.
One game, I know.
Once again, though, let's not get carried away, but they took the first step about understanding what it takes to win a game, and a big game. But when you talk about their desperation, you've got to do it again, and you've got to do it again. And sometimes for young players, that's the real challenge. Look, Quinton Strange made a huge difference for them in their forward pack earlier on. Then he picked up a little bit of a niggle. Is he going to be fit for when they come back once again? But you add these players in, and you bring a Johnny McNichol in. It comes down to me, though, is the biggest selection thing is Noah Hotham. What is it you do right now? Because you weren't going to play him and start him in this game. All of a sudden, he's made an impact. He's done something a little bit different. You haven't got a Rolls-Royce forward pack like you've had in the past. You don't have Richie Mo'unga at first 5. What you have to do is have someone creative. He's a creative type of player.
This almost came about, it was misfortune for, obviously, Drummond, not missing out, and he was going to captain the side, but they seen Hotham earlier on in the rounds, but unfortunately they sort of had to revert back to a little bit of experience to try and get that win. And this is why it makes it even, more outstanding. The fact he's come on and gone, well, hey, I'm just going to go out there and show them what we can do. The whole team has gone in about the desperation, but it just takes a little bit of weight off their shoulders in terms of that sort of
Yeah, I think they will be happy with the bye. I mean, I was stoked for Rob, because it's hard when you're in the coach and, you're coming off that sort of legacy. So the pressure was 5 times more than it would have been if you're the Blues coach or the Chiefs coach, just because of who they are. So they'll enjoy this break. They need to regroup and they need to go, this can't be a one-off, right? Their defensive speed was incredible. Their first up tackles were really good. And that's what I said before, Mills. They were missing those tackles the week before and the week before that.
They've got to go back to the week before that, the Blues game, because there's still little wee chinks. They misfired a couple of lineups, but they've got to almost emulate exactly that sort of prep leading into this game to further go down when they hit the Aussie teams, because, man, they're looking pretty good.
Let's take a look at their run home then, because they are hitting the Australian sides directly after their bye, which is coming up in the next week. So this is what their next 8 games looks like. They've got 1 on the board. As Jeff mentioned last week, they probably only need 5, maybe 6 wins to make the playoffs. They've got the Waratahs in force in Australia, so a couple of weeks on the road. They come back for the Rebels and the Reds. So that's the next month for the Crusaders, which will be their immediate focus. They take on the Highlanders down in Dunedin. By that stage, you imagine that Cody Taylor, Scott Barrett and all of these other players will be back for them as well. The Brumbies away, the Blues at home and Moana Pacifika to round the season. When you look at this team and the way that they played on the weekend, with the personnel they had available, can they beat any team on their day? Are you convinced, JK, that they can win a title in 2024 with the way that they played in that 80 minutes?
No.
You still don't think so?
No.
You are a harsh critic.
No, I just don't. Look, I think, like Goldie said, can they make the top 8? Yeah. Have they improved incredibly? They're rebuilding for me. Like, they don't have the experience of the Whitelocks, you know. If they miss a couple of players, then, you know, the first 5 settling into it. I was really happy. I thought it was, you know, way better, right? And it takes a while. It takes a couple of seasons for a standoff to look at Pacifika, you know. Like, so it takes a while. So do I think they can make it all the way to the final? Absolutely not. Can they rebuild and have a great season and make the playoffs? Of course they can. But I don't think they're good enough to make the finals.
Well, everyone probably thought that the Chiefs were title favourites coming into this season, but the most alarming thing that you said to me not very long ago, in the last half an hour, the Chiefs are so vulnerable without Damian McKenzie, and that's a serious concern.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at the difference, and I just think this guy brings, and look at those stats. Like, I asked 3 times if they were real, right? Points scored 166 with Damian, 32 without. Kicks and play 118. Goldie, you might want to go into that. Carries, metres, like the stats are incredible. Yeah. But the thing I love about Damian McKenzie, and the thing that I don't think we notice, is he plays the game so differently, right? Non-traditional standoff mills, runs laterally. Like, I keep referring to him like playing like a rugby league standoff. But he's brought something X factor to. But when you play with someone like that, your attack gets used to it. And when you take him out, I think it's very difficult to play a tradition game.
And I think over the years, the Chiefs have come comfortable with playing a Damian McKenzie type game. He runs backwards, they all understands that. You don't play a traditional sort of 10. Now they've sort of seen a traditional 10 come on or finish the game off when he's kind of off, and they've had to try and adjust back to that. So the style that Damian McKenzie plays when he's on is a Chiefs style, and I think that what they haven't sort of quite got right is adjusting to when someone like a Ioane comes on or a Truss comes on. But yeah, I think that'd be something they'll talk a lot about, you know, when they get to the review. There
are times in games you need creative players to spark something. You talk about try assists, to take the ball to the line. I don't think we should ignore the piece of the puzzle that's not there as well, and Brad Weber.
Yeah.
And how experienced he is, and the things that he used to do really, really well. He was a great cover defender. His pass was fantastic. Kicking was accurate. He was always there, but he was always that player in support. He was a sniper with the ball in hand, very, very quick. All of a sudden, once again, Xavier Rowe, I think, is more of a passing halfback. Pass. But if you don't have someone who can create off-phase play, particularly in the middle of the park, and if you're not seeing the space to attack too, and that's what the Chiefs didn't do. Counter-attacked really well, brought the ball back really well, but when they got in the middle of the field, it was, how do we now breach? How do we now turn this into points? And that's where they let themselves down on the weekend. But they're going to have to understand that you can't rely on one guy. You have to have a formula. The Crusaders were no different when Richie Mo'unga wasn't there for them, right?
Exactly the same.
That's the way. That's what great players do. That's what the best players in the competition bring.
Damian McKenzie, by the way, was on an All Blacks rest, but he was also out with a knee injury, so not actually available. We're not sure how bad that is. The Chiefs are hoping that he'll be back this week, but I guess the worrying thing now for the Blues is that Stephen Pacifika, we understand, has picked up a shoulder injury and he is going for scans, but it seems serious at this stage, which you start thinking, well, who is the second best 10 in New Zealand right now? Who's the third best 10? Because this is the conversation the All Blacks are going to be having if some of these guys are out injured.
Well, we know we need 4. We knew that.
Who are they?
We knew that. Well, we don't know right now if we're getting injuries. I mean, and Super Rugby is the same. You talk about the depth, and this is probably the trouble with your Highlanders as well. Like, how does your bench look? And if you go deep into this competition, the reason I think that the Crusaders, although they're getting some players back, are in a rebuilding phase because they've always had massive depth. Be able to lose a couple of guys and they've had other people come in. But who's going to take Pacifika's place? The Blues are now feeling a little bit dinged up and it'll really test the depth of your squad. And to get through to the end of Super Rugby, you've got to have that depth.
Depth is key, I mean, Cameron, you know.
Brett Cameron.
With what he's doing with the Hurricanes, he's solid. You know, he's running the game, and of course, you know, yeah, we know they're on a big high at the moment. But I like the way he's playing because he is playing some solid football.
So he starts coming back into the All Blacks conversation. He's played there before.
Well, the interesting thing you said was in New Zealand.
Yes.
We've got a player who's not in New Zealand who's
got
coming
two.
back in terms of Beauden Barrett, whereas Brett Cameron is doing a job really nicely here. But let's understand, Super Rugby is not the international arena. It is not test matches. It's not playing England in July, right? So at some point, yes, we'll want to see some players because we need growth, we need players to step up and maybe get an opportunity. If he continues to do what he's doing in terms of Brett Cameron and what he's doing for our Hurricanes team, which is playing outstanding rugby, but I think we've got to look at it at, yes, Damien McKenzie, we hope he's fit and available. Yes. Beauden Barrett is coming back. The question we have to have, though, is are we comfortable going forward into this season as Beauden Barrett, as our first five, not knowing the status of Will Jordan and when he might be back? Are you comfortable with that?
Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm just saying, do you think that's... Because Beauden Barrett finished the season
You've got to be
some
kidding
outstanding
me.
rugby.
You're trying to rile me up, ain't you?
Why am I riling him up?
Because Beauden Barrett is, I believe, our saving grace. Like, because if Pacifika's fit, right, fantastic. We've got Damien McKenzie, and then you've got Beauden Barrett. Thank goodness. I was going to say thank God, but I can't on Easter because Mum would come and haunt me. But, like, how good is it that we're actually using that to have Beauden back? Like, it's fantastic. Off the bench or starting. If he came back and Pacifika's injured and Damien's not at 100, bring it on. Who else would you play? These guys are coming through, but man, it's like coming back to experience. I just think it's such a good idea.
So Brett Cameron, who you've mentioned has been a standout with the Hurricanes, has been beside probably the player of the competition in Cam Roigard. He got injured over the weekend. If you missed it, he was on gas, which means he was in serious pain, and it sounds like he has done his patella tendon, which could be a very long-term injury, and we're all hoping that it's not. Because the form that this guy's in, you want to see him playing in Super Rugby, but we're about to see his injury. And Jeff, you were there, you saw it straight away.
Yeah, recognised.
We
We don't need to watch this too many times. This is devastating for him.
Yeah.
He was playing in such good form. The impact he had last year, you know, there's no doubt clearly he was going to be in the conversation. We've got to wait and see. Let's not jump to the conclusion. Look, I think he was the form 9 in Super Rugby. Let's not jump to any conclusions. Let's let things play out. But if we think worst case scenario, the Hurricanes have lost a really big part of their game plan, of their attack, of their threats. Look, they're still very, very good, and you've got TJ Perenara, but you're missing a lot now that Cam Roigard is probably unlikely out for a long time.
What's our French halfback's name?
Antoine Dupont.
Antoine Dupont changed how halfbacks play, and I think Cam is that. Right, he has that balance between running the extra. You know, I always talk about a passing halfback and a sort of running halfback. He's got the combination, and he's so strong around the ruck that I thought he was putting his hand up as I'm the number one halfback.
Yeah, just the way he's been playing. I mean, he was the form halfback, and man, this is a massive blow, massive for the Hurricanes. Am I worried about our stocks? Not necessarily. I think we've still got plenty around. If we're talking about the bigger picture, if he's out for the rest of the year, I think there's still enough there. Christie's still available. Fakatava's around.
Are you happy though for the Hurricanes in terms of for them with TJ Perenara and is it Richard Judd? Is he the backup? How much does this affect them?
The style of play.
Well, the Hurricanes, how much does it affect them?
Well, I think TJ's come back in a different nick, right? He looks a lot better. Physically, he almost looks like he's trimmed down a lot. I think he'll be hungry. And let's not forget, he got his opportunity because TJ fell injured as well. So this is all part of the sort of rugby. So Roigard wouldn't have got as many games, perhaps if TJ Perenara didn't get injured. I think he's brought a bit of a hunger. Experience is key. I mean, you're one shy short of that 61 tries. I mean...
Oh, does he come back into All Black contention in a season like this?
What do you think,
JK? Totally.
Absolutely.
Roigard's out, then, I mean, TJ's come back. I wasn't that in favour to begin with because I thought he'd finish. He's come back, he's knuckled down, come off the injury, got back into the All Blacks, playing really well. He looks fit, strong, he comes on, you can see him talking. So, if you're someone like Razor, your first season, if you've got a couple... And I agree, I think Christie's playing incredibly well, so our stocks are okay. But if you're looking at experience, like we spoke about with Barrett, you're going to need those guys in your first year while you're transitioning into...
See, the upside now is he gets to play.
Yeah.
and gets to play big minutes and gets the opportunity to shine and show what he's capable of. We wouldn't have had him in the conversation if he wasn't playing, whereas now TJ's going to get that chance. So I think, should he be in the conversation, what I think he'll do first and foremost is he'll keep this Hurricanes team on track on where they are and who they are and keep them going forward. He looked really good, had a good chat to him after the game. You can see he's confident, he's got great faith in where his body's at and how hard he's worked to get to where he is, and his conditioning has always been very good. But he almost looks as though he's got a little bit of that pop back in terms of his speed. So.
Yeah, exactly. But I almost think sometimes, you know, when you're coming back and you're concentrating on yourself and you've been a leader for years and years, sometimes when you just, you know, worry about yourself and take that responsibility away from it, it almost freshens you up. And I sense, you know, because there's so much, you know, momentum into their team, there's success, you know, he's almost been a benefactor of that to come in now and go, hey, I'm going to be a little bit selfish about the way I'm going to play, and I'm going to get a lot of minutes now.
So you're talking about an experienced player like TJ Perenara being back in the mix. Where does this leave Folau Fakatava, who of course had that serious knee injury last year? And what about the youngsters? What about Cortez Latimer and Noah Hotham?
Yeah, I thought Fakatava was quiet for 2 weeks. He was better this weekend, and you and I had a discussion about that, Goldie. For me, he needs to get back to consistent week in, week out. When he's good, he's very good. Sometimes he goes a bit quiet for me, but he's certainly in the discussion.
The hard part, Mills, is he's playing for a team. And we think about who the Highlanders have just had to play, and you lost a little bit of momentum, and you think about the way that he does play. I like his style of football.
Yeah.
If he was playing in a team that was going forward and playing well, how would he look? That's the question you have to have if he's pulling on the All Black jersey. Is like, okay, if the platform is there, if they're playing at speed, does it allow him to show what he can do really, really well? He's showing glimpses of it for the Highlanders, but the Highlanders are clearly, when they've come up against the big guns, and that's what they've come up against in the last 3 weeks, they haven't been able to have that impact. And one of those was the Brumbies. And the Brumbies showed on the weekend, I think they're a tough team. So this is for Folau, is that he's got to keep showing the consistency he can in a team that may not be dominating Mills.
But I think if you look at it, the last couple of years, he's had to play a totally different role. He's had to come off the bench and spark like that. You know, he hasn't gone into a game where you have to sort of feel your way through, look at opportunities, not sort of come on, you know, right from the get-go and look at every opportunity. And that's probably the balance of his game. You know, the fact that, you know, you talk about, you know, traditional halfbacks, it's just to clear the ball. Aaron Smith was probably like that, and he found his way into sniping a bit. Fakatava has had to come on for the last couple of years and just spark things up by creating there. He's probably doing a little bit too much without really realising that.
Yeah, no, I just want to know what you think, Goldie, we need to see from him if he's going to have a non-dominant forward pack. Does he need to improve his kicking game? Like, it's no use us going, well, the forward pack, so what do we need to see? A better kicking game, a better judgment around what?
Well, ultimately is how he's going to impact the game for that side and what they need him to do. And what I think we should never underestimate is defensively he's really, really good. Great over the ball, he's a great defender. You know, it's about some of those little accuracies when things break down, how do you restart? Or, like you say, the accuracy of the kicking game, making sure if it's a contestable, it's contestable. If you want to find grass, you find grass. Give your team the best chance to regroup. So there's those accuracies, but it's really making that connection. I think they lost a little bit when they played against the Brumbies when Reece Patchell didn't play. Cam Miller, they just lost a little bit there, and his confidence got knocked. Maybe, I'm not sure around that, but it didn't look like he looked better again. But that was up against a team like the Hurricanes, who are just on fire right now. The one thing that's great about all of this, and you mentioned it earlier on, is Finlay Christie. Because you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Like his form, he holds his form. Now, it might not be spectacular. He might not do the brilliant things. But the fundamentals, the competitiveness, the accuracies you need out of him, kicking game's good, passing game's good. It's nice to know that if you had to not fall back, but look at what his skill set is, his special set of skills, he does the fundamentals of a halfback really well.
Well, I think he's spectacular because of all the things you mentioned. Like, he doesn't really have a weakness. He can defend. He's got a really good pass, he can kick, he can dart when he needs to, and he's our current incumbent. So he was picked ahead of Roy Gard. So, you know.
Different role though, to play a different role coming off the bench.
Yeah, but I'd have no trouble if he started as our test halfback if we're playing next week. I'd have no problem with that, because like, you should see his cover defence and stuff. Like, I think sometimes we don't talk of him because he might not do the spectacular, but he does everything else like at an incredible level. So his spectacular for me is you watch him tackle, like his cover defence. So yeah, I think he's first name down at the moment. If
And
you've got
to your point too, Test match level is a lot different to Super Rugby, and that's where Finlay, when he gets to Test match level, he's solid right across that as well. 1 to 60 minutes is different from 60 to 80. Okay, so when you're getting those guys that you're saying, a little bit of different balance where a Roy Guard would, he challenges the edges, so does Fakatava. With Christie, he will play solid and make sure he wins those sort of small moments within that 1 to 60 minute mark if he has to start. So I'm not worried, as I said. I'm not worried about our stocks of nines. If anything, hopefully Roy Guard isn't out for too long, but he brings something different. He's certainly the form halfback.
Well, you talk about the stocks. We've just talked about 5 halfbacks there. Roy Guard, Fakatava, Hotham earlier, Christie and Perenara. Jeff, if Roy Guard is out, who are your best 3 nines in New Zealand right now? Who are the 3 in order?
In order? I mean...
1, 2, 3.
If I had to go, look, I would, if it was me, it would be Finlay Christie would be my number 1.
Christie's one.
But that's because I know what I'm going to get. I know I'm going to trust. I'm going up against England. But then you
2
have
and
to start
3?
The conversation. That's really hard. That's
Is it Perenara, because
tough.
you also know what you're getting?
Once again, he's the perfect person to be your 3rd halfback, right? Yeah. So you sit there and you bring a Noah Hotham in, or you bring Folau Fakatava back in, and you go, you know what? Let's find out. Because I imagine at some point, Razor's going to want to find out about some of these young kids, and I imagine the first squad, it's going to be large, right? The first team he picks is going to be a whole lot of people he'll want to get to training. Yeah. Remember, I don't think he's having any camps during Super Rugby. They're not doing that way. They're having meetings with certain groups of people, but none of these camps. So before he prepares for England, you know what I'd be doing the first game? I'd be putting my trust...
Not ringing Aaron Smith.
What's that?
Not ringing Aaron Smith.
Now, here's a conversation.
Here's my 3.
No,
I'm not. Here's my 3. Christie, TJ Perenara, I'd bring him straight in for his experience, and Fakatava, because I think Fakatava is starting again. So he will have all this knowledge around him. So TJ then becomes the outer statesman. You can put him on a test, you're not worried about him, but then he can help people like Fakatava get better at their game during the 10 weeks.
I think the other way around, with Fakatava second coming off the bench at this stage, and TJ just finding his form and being that experienced sort of hold to possibly jump both of them as well.
Well, it's funny that JK mentioned Aaron Smith, who's currently playing in Japan, along with a couple of our other All Blacks who are heading back to New Zealand later in the year. The All Black eligibility debate rages on. We're going to find out about these guys, if they would change the rules, and what would they be. That's coming up right after this on The Breakdown. Welcome back to The Breakdown. I tell you what, those Easter eggs just got a lashing in the break, and they are absolutely delicious. But we're going to head across to Japan, because one of our greatest All Blacks, Ardie Savea, World Rugby Player of the Year, has endorsed the idea of picking All Blacks from overseas. You know, the New Zealand Rugby board, they are completely against this idea, but don't forget, Scott Razor-Robertson, the All Blacks coach, said we need to keep an open mind about it. So this is exactly what Ardie said. He said, times are changing. We've got to be innovative and smart around what we're doing. The country that's proven that, and it works, is South Africa, current world champions. The majority of their team is playing offshore, and they come together and they win a Rugby World Cup. Has this fired you up, JK?
I disagree. I disagree with Ardie in this sense. I think we need to be very, very careful about protecting our All Blacks and trying to keep them here. Ardie's on what I call a financial sabbatical, and I'm pleased he's coming back. South Africa, I believe, is different. We want to win stuff in between World Cups. It's pretty hard for an All Black coach if you don't win the championship, you don't win the Bledisloe Cup. It's pretty hard. So I don't think it's going to suit us having our players being able to go overseas and be picked from anywhere in the Northern Hemisphere.
Why does it work for South Africa, Mills?
Well, I think it's a different dynamics in terms of South Africa. A lot of them now, they're playing in Europe. They're in this. The South African teams are in sort of Europe as well. They've had to sort of, sort of open it up a little bit for guys from Japan to come back. I kind of tend to agree with JK. I think, and we're probably talking high end. We're probably talking about our current All Blacks, right? And that's probably where Ardie's coming from. The thing that you're going to get is, why would guys that are not All Blacks stick around in New Zealand? You know, you're going to get all those guys like we talked about. Hotham, he's going to go overseas because he's going to make more than the 95,000 that he's on at the Crusaders. He'll probably make double or triple that and still be eligible for the All Blacks. So what does that do in terms of the stock here in New Zealand? I get that. I think we do have to get a little bit innovative in terms of our current All Blacks and whether we look at sort of guys that have played a certain amount of tests or a certain amount of years. But I don't like the fact that if I was a youngster growing up, I get to go overseas and still be picked up there.
So we've got some rule changes.
Look, I'll say this firstly, though, and we'll talk about this 1 second, but we've already been innovative. All right, we've already gone to the sabbatical model for a long, long time now. We've provided opportunities for players to go and play overseas. So let's don't think that we have shown some flexibility for some guys already, but their commitment to New Zealand rugby is the fact they're coming back to play in New Zealand. So I accept that, but don't think we haven't already done something. I'm certainly understand where you're coming from, JK.
So we've asked each of you about the current eligibility rules, which currently you have to be playing here in New Zealand, and this is what each of our panellists have come up. We'll start with you, Jeff. And what have you gone for? Can you explain it to us?
Pretty simple.
Why?
Pretty simple is the fact that I understand that players will look for opportunities overseas, but also there are times and unique circumstances that you might, through injury, unavailability, or whatever it might be, you need to go somewhere that's not here in New Zealand. But I just put a maximum on it. Just 2 players, just 2. How often do we not have someone in New Zealand that we can go to? Very, very rarely. But they have to have, to me, probably made a commitment of 5 years already. 5 years will probably get you somewhere around 60 test matches. But I'll say this, there's no guarantees when you go. So I'm not signing you at the same time. I'm not committing to anyone. Yeah. It's on a need-by-need basis. Finding someone that you may need in a certain situation if you have multiple injuries and you can call on someone. But it's just, to me, you've got a minimum and you've got a maximum in terms of players.
I like
What's
that.
your rule,
I like that. My ruling is Super Rugby players, regardless of whether you're playing for the other franchises here in New Zealand or if you're playing for an Australian franchise in New Zealand, you're eligible to be available for the All Blacks and be selected to play for the All Blacks if you're in there. If another country decides to come in, same thing as well. But I think obviously there's a bigger picture in terms of who pays those players.
Yeah, and do you think some New Zealanders will go to, some top New Zealanders would go to the Australian franchises?
I think that's another conversation in terms of, I'm selfishly trying to think of Super Rugby and how to actually make that, as big as we can. The difficulty about that is who's actually going to pay those players when they do go, because we're governed by a centralised system where guys are paid X amount. I mean, from a financial point of view, when you look over the ditch, it's probably not going to be the same. And so there's a bit more to that. But in the ideal world, I would love to see us pick players, say there's a cap of 5 players that can play for the Force or even the Te Rua or even Moana, but they are still eligible to be picked for the All Blacks.
JK, what do you think about the rules? What's yours?
Yeah, I don't like yours, Goldie.
It didn't matter what I wrote up there, but that's fine.
No, that's not true.
Why don't you like it? Just before you go into yours, why don't you like it?
That's not true, because I think if you're coming back to re-sign, cool.
Which is your sabbatical scenario, where you've got guys who are playing overseas.
Well, no, sabbatical for me...
Or they're off contract.
No, it's really different. So sabbatical for me is Artie, is Bowden Barrett, they're going over there and they've already signed and they're coming back. Whitelock's different, Wanga's different, but if he says, I'm coming back and I'm signing, right, for the next 3 years, pick them. But I don't think... I'm with Mills. We've really got to protect the Southern Hemisphere. Why do they leave and go north? Because there's more money. So how do we create a competition that we can be competitive? So this is what I'm thinking. Hang on. This is what I'm thinking. We bring Japan into the Super Rugby. 4 of their club sides, or 5 of their club sides, they come into Super Rugby, right? And then if you go over there and you play for one of those clubs, so Artie Savia, right? Let's say he says, actually, I don't want to come back. I'm going to stay in Japan. But he's coming down and playing against these 2 young boys at the Hurricanes. If he still outplays them, you can pick him. Same with Whitelock, right? So we're seeing them in front of our own eyes, but also we're growing our competition. We've got to start competing financially. And the trouble is, South Africa's left us, or we let them down, or whatever that story is, right? But they're not with us anymore. So they're not part of the Southern Hemisphere. So we need to build this competition that people want to come down. And it needs to be based on this. At the moment, it costs people money. No one's making money.
See, my model is based on the fact that we can't afford to keep everybody. So that's the difference. I agree with you. If they're playing in a Super Rugby competition for any team, I have no issues. The trouble is, in Australia can't afford it right now to move any of our players.
Japan possibly could, right?
Yeah, Japan. That's the difference. You've changed the competition, and I understand that, and I agree entirely. I'm looking at, in a situation right now where you sit to yourself, okay, why are we considering Sam Whitelock? because we feel as though we need something. We need something, and if they've passed a threshold, but I've thrown out these 60 tests, which
So right now, with our injuries, you'd be saying Whitelock because we need experience, and Aaron Smith because 3 of our halfbacks
if
have
we
gone down.
felt as though we needed it. But that's one of those situations where you're not paying them and not committing to them now.
Maybe you should put it up to
by
100
need.
tests.
I want people who want to play for the All Blacks, 100%, right? It's not,
Yeah, okay, I get that, but you've got to sacrifice to play for the All Blacks. Like, that has been the beauty of this. So if you think about some of these players, they could have sacrificed $5 or $6 million across 6 or 7 years of their career to play for the All Blacks. Once you're done, if you go overseas, does that mean you should be allowed, oh, okay, I'm allowed to come back? Or what's your sacrifice? You're getting millions over there just because you played 100 tests? Like, if you come back, or if you play in a competition where you're still competing and you're 35 and you've played 100 odd tests, good luck. But we've still got to get back to the All Blacks need to be the best in their position. Full stop. How can you judge that from overseas?
The good thing is things are so settled at New Zealand Rugby. We've got a board and everything that are ready to make these decisions right now. They've got this to focus on, right? Have they got time to focus on this? Oh, sorry, we're not going there tonight. Yeah, okay.
Mate, he's full of jokes after that jersey he's got, eh? He's full of jokes after this.
They know who they are.
Hard to take you seriously with your
Well, I'll tell you what,
jersey sitting there.
Like, let's get back to this conversation though. So,
We don't have time, JK.
Yeah, but why is this even being discussed? The New Zealand Rugby has made a rule. Stop, Artie. Stop anyone talking about this. The rule is no.
But they're talking
Which
about
part of
it
no
because-
don't we understand?
Clearly the players are talking about it.
And Scott Robertson is the one that came out and said, have an open mind. He said it on this show at the start of the season, have an open mind. That's why the conversation's ongoing, isn't it?
Well, no, you have an open mind when you look at your selection and go, shit, I need a lock. That's when you become open-minded. If you've got 20 of them, you're not open-minded.
Well, there's a lot of loose forwards in New Zealand, but how good would it be having the World Rugby Player of the Year, Ardie Savea, back? He is a Pacifika legend. And on Friday night, there was a first ever Pacifika Hall of Fame that happened here in New Zealand. 7 people from rugby backgrounds were inducted, but there were also some really special awards handed out. Mills, you were there. What did it mean for you to be there as part of this for the first time?
It was magic, wasn't it? I mean, obviously I got to MC and just catch up with a lot of legends of the game that you sort of were thinking far out, and to be in the presence of them in the room. First ever Rugby Hall of Fame inductees, and there were 7 of them that were inducted. And man, what a night. I mean, some of the names that are there, I mean, look at that. Te Uli Fiao Whaomausili, Papa Li'itele, Peter Fatialofa, Mulianga Tele, Brian Limar, Jonah Lomu, Waisali Serevi, George Smith, and of course the great Sir Brian Williams. But I picked out a few, okay? I only picked out a few. I know we've named them here, but I thought we'd pick out a few and sort of work through that. But before we do that, Kirsty, there were some awards that were given out.
Special awards given out that are going to be given out every year. The John Lomu Award went to Ardie Savea, the Fia'u Whaomasili Award to Ruby Tui as the most influential female Pacifika player, the Waisali Serevi Award for Breakthrough Player of the Year, Mane Felu and Mark Talia. Superstar players across the board there. I don't know how they picked just 4, but there will be those awards every year. Mills, talk us through your moments.
Well, my moments, I picked out a few, and the first one really is Papali'i Tele, Peter Fatialofa, and we all know how special he was. You know, that 91 World Cup, I think it was their first one ever. And gee, he was a character, a piano mover. You know, these days they do weights in the gym. He used to throw. Whoa, what happened there, JK?
JK.
I never tackled, it wasn't part of my brief. My idea was to wear gel and
Just
liquid.
fell over
You're
for
in all
no
his
reason.
highlights.
Fats was honestly one of the greatest characters of the game. To go away with this man, obviously a beautiful heart, like he had this, like loved in Samoa. I remember being in my room once, I was coaching Japan, and phone call, Sully, it's Fats, come downstairs with all your gear. And I went downstairs, or all my spare gear, and we went driving through the villages, and he just gave out gear. You know, we had a couple of beers. They just absolutely loved him. But his biggest job and his greatest job, and he started it, was he was the keeper of the Ranfurly Shield. He used to take it home, right, and put it on his mantelpiece. And it came back every week, never damaged. And Pete would take it home every week. But just an amazing character of the game. Always a laugh, always part of mischief and all sorts of different stuff. Fantastic.
Oh, the next guy I'm going to mention, he brought heartache upon some of us all, especially in my time, and that was George Smith. You know, his dreadlocks, you always made sure you didn't run too close to him, but well, I actually made
You
a tackle
guys are
there.
making all the highlights or lowlights reels.
Yeah, they're highlights, aren't they? I mean, and George, it was nice to see George there too, and catch up with him on the night, because, you know, certainly he, an Australian legend and, you know, Tongan background, and a Pacifika one as well. So he was the second one. My third, Waisali Sarevi, the magician.
Legend.
I was on the back end of some unfortunate sort of sevens games as well when this guy, but he just created something out of nothing. His cheeky smile, the way he spoke also on the night. I mean, look at this. It's a great Christian Cullen. It's Waisali Sarevi. I think he's based in America, and to see legends like this and what they used to do. I think one game of rugby 15s he played for the Flying Fijians, but
There wasn't. He could do everything on a rugby field. He was magic to watch. I mean, to be honest with you, yes, it was great watching New Zealand play, but when you talk about the Fijian Sevens team, when he was on the hit, you just couldn't take your eyes off him.
yeah.
It was awesome.
The next guy,
Wow.
you like this guy,
Brian
Lima.
Brian Lima. And the happiest day of my life playing for the Hollanders is when he signed for us and he came south. Because I used to play him, you know, he was playing up north, playing for Auckland, and he, when your nickname's the chiropractor, it tells you exactly how you hit and you tackle. And to have him on your side, look, he was a wonderful player. Played for a long, long time at the international level. Just an absolute 5 World Cups. This man, 5 World Cups. I don't think he's apologising there either for how hard he hit Inga, but remarkable player.
Yeah, I know. And man, the last guy, we all sort of know this man, you know, Sir Brian Williams, you know, he was here on the night. Really special also to see them celebrate, you know, Ponsonby Rugby's 150th. And nice to see also Tui Fasi Sina, Sir Brian Williams acknowledged too.
He started it, right? I always remember this. I'll have to get up and show you when this is over. So when I was a young 18-year-old, I used to get up. I can remember his tour in South Africa when he did a sidestep under the goalpost about 9 yards. So I went and saw him down at Cox's Creek and I said, Beach, can you teach me how to sidestep, you know? And he was so generous with his time. We went down to Cox's Creek and he ran, and when he went to do a sidestep, he would miss a step. So he ran and he'd go and he'd jump and go, boom, right?
You right?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Are you okay? I just want to make sure you're right.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I couldn't do it. So I walked away thinking, I'm never going to make it. Like, how can you do that? You think about the pressure on his legs, so he would actually miss.
The size of his legs.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good point,
he
right?
couldn't stay in his shorts. It was massive. But he really was the beginning of Pacifika, and also our relationship with South Africa, you know. Gave a lot of people hope in those early tours, and, you know, went on to coach. He was my coach for the Auckland team, and really was, you know, the leader of what is now, and you know, just the finish mills.
Yeah, really special.
You must have been incredible, proud, man.
I was. I mean, as a Polynesian and, you know, someone that was born in Samoa, I mean, even to hear that over, you know, half of the teams over in the Rugby World Cup last year had someone of Pacifika sort of background. I mean, even that's special. But to understand, this is just a start. Next year there'll be more inductees.
Look forward to your influence.
Can I get back to the
decade.
conversation about like eligibility? Because it comes back to Pacifika. How good has the Drua been for Pacifika Rugby in a competition in the Southern Hemisphere? Because how many Pacifika players have to go overseas to make money? So I know that we worry about it, but if you're in Samoa or Tonga or Fiji, you know, you've got to actually go overseas. Yeah.
Well, that jump step that JK talked about, were you inspired by?
Oh, absolutely. Growing up, I taught myself how to actually do it, but I got guilty. I could only go right to left, so I started on the right side of the field and just keep going until he got to the other side of the field. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly something I grew up and watching and trying to, and it obviously worked.
Did you actually do that?
Yeah, I did that. Yep.
Yeah, look at the legs.
I can't do it now. Certainly, I'm not going to try. And I applaud you for giving it a crack.
That was good. That was
a bit of a sore knee now.
At least the Medicart didn't come out, JK. At least the Medicart didn't come out. Beautiful Mills's moments these weeks. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Your trivia question this week, it's around club rugby, of course, off the back of Ponsonby sharing their 150th reunion. What is the oldest rugby club in New Zealand? Do you know what it is? There's a bit of a debate raging on between two clubs, but we'll tell you the answer right after this. No, my hooky, my welcome back into the breakdown. And no, JK, we cannot go back to the eligibility chat for the 4th time this program. I promise you will make time another show. Your trivia answer, well, the question first, of course, was, which is the oldest rugby club in New Zealand? Straight away, JK said, it's the one in Dunedin. You should know this, but it's not, is it?
No, it's not.
It's not the one in Dunedin. So what club is it then? Let's take a look. We've got a full frame graphic of the different clubs and how old they're. No,
Nelson.
there it is.
Nelson
1870, Nelson Rugby Club. What was the Dunedin club that tries to claim it?
Well, that was the first test match, wasn't it? We used to train there with the first test match.
Well, it's Nelson.
Nelson.
Which is the one on the water there?
Did someone just say it's Nelson, or have we got like
Facts.
proof?
Facts.
I think there'll be. I know it's not. I know it's on the screen, but that doesn't actually mean it's fact. I mean, look. Someone on Dunedin will come back with something. You watch. Someone from Dunedin will come back.
You guys question this trivia question every single week.
That's because we don't get it right very often.
Well, it's not even for you guys. Right. It's for you sitting there at home. And we do hope that you enjoy the trivia question each week. Righto, let's get into Super Rugby Opiki because the finalists have been found. We've got one round to go, but it will be contested between the Blues women and the Chiefs Manawa in 2 weeks' time. Venue to be determined, depending on the last week. But the Blues were brilliant on the weekend, comprehensively beating the Manawa, who have been the top team this season.
They were good.
Very
really good, the Blues. And I think, for me, this was a statement performance, just to let the Chiefs Manawa the fact you're going to have to be at your very best. At your best to beat us when it comes final time.
Yeah, and Chiefs Manawa haven't quite. They've been sort of sticky every sort of time they've sort of played. You're sort of hoping they sort of worn themselves into it, but the Blues coming back and sort of, winning the way they did, this is going to set up a big final.
Yeah, well, I watched the week before and I thought they were really building to something. I thought they came back from a really difficult situation. So, yeah, go the Blues.
Of course you're happy, JK. Of course you're happy when the Blues are winning. But Chiefs Manawa, this could be good for them. Let's hear from their first 5, Chelsea Semple.
Kia ora to Kirsty in the Breakdown whānau. This is just a little message from myself on behalf of the Chiefs Manawa team and the entire Chiefs Rugby Club to you, Kirsty. Not long to go until we meet your beautiful new arrival, and we can't wait to see the baby sideline with all the Chiefs gear on. We'll welcome the new addition to our whānau straight away. I've told the girls you're going to be working at the final, even though you're due pretty much that week. But yeah, we hope to see you there, and if not, we just wish you all the best. I'm very excited for you. You're an amazing person, amazing at what you do, and we love that you back us 100%. So all the best, thinking of you so much, and up the Manawa.
You were attacking us in the ad break
How
for
does it feel?
surprising you. I
How
hate
does
it.
it feel?
I hate it.
How does it feel?
No surprises.
Well, the fact that, because we're not all going to be here going forward over the
No, but
next
I'm
few
gonna
weeks.
be here for a
Yeah, I
wee
know,
while.
but we're not all
This
going to be
isn't
here together. And this is
happening
a breakdown team, so they're bearing gifts.
Oh,
bearing
that's
gifts now.
really
That's
cute.
oh, yeah, there
Really
we go.
cute.
It's not quite a Crusaders one. There's
very, very cute. Thank you.
Oh, and there's one for you, which I think it's.
I hope it's signed, just like your jersey.
It's my jersey. And this is from us, the breakdown
Thank you so
team.
much.
We are so excited for
Well, I
you.
hate surprises, but I'm very grateful.
You are? I'm glad we managed to got that done.
Oh, what a horrible show of surprises.
Well, we just want to know, Millsy, if we're allowed to stand here and...
Yeah, well, you've got a grandchild on the way as well, JK.
A few weeks after you, so...
Well, he's volunteered
That's why I nearly
babysitting any time. He
babysitting.
said babysitting any time.
So bring them both in and they can all hang out.
Exactly.
Have you got a sort of date of how long you're going to be away for them? Because I'm a bit worried that I'm going
1
to
week.
just these guys. Do I have to handle these guys by myself, though?
I don't know.
We can babysit.
Well, I'll bring him in.
Yeah,
I'll bring him
totally.
in. Any name suggestions?
John Jr.? No, that's my daughter. I've been trying to get that through for my daughter.
You were very
No
polite
chance. No chance.
So someone mentioned at the weekend, and you were very polite about, Jeff's not a bad name. Oh, it was Grant. It was Nisbo, wasn't it? Nisbo said Grant's a good name.
Grant's a great name.
Grant's a good name.
Look, I'm all flustered and embarrassed now.
We're incredibly proud.
Now you know
of
what it feels like. Hey? You know what it
At
feels
least
like.
this is my team.
Kirsty, I
That
think
one's not quite.
we're just incredibly proud of you.
Absolutely.
You're amazing at your job, and we're just excited for you. So I'm a bit tearful myself.
Oh, stop it, JK. Well, I'm super grateful as well. And I just wanted to say this, really grateful to Sky that they've actually let me continue to do this amazing job. And I'm going to get emotional. It's looking at you. But so grateful that Sky let me do this as well, because before you wouldn't have been able to do this. So really, really grateful. Anyway, does someone else want to wrap this show?
Well, should we talk about eligibility?
JK.
Oh, that's so very,
I still disagree with you. Like,
I know you disagree.
Come on.
I disagree. This is so good.
Well, okay, it has been raining in Fiji. Raining tries, raining victories, and physically raining for the Fijian draw as well, but they continue to get the job done. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be back next week, don't worry. I'll still be here, I hope. Anyway, we'll see you then.
It is great to have your company for more Super Rugby Pacific. We're back at Churchill Park in Lautoka. It's the wet city today.
Did he get it down? It looked pretty good from there. Marcy, yes, he's over. Try time.
Out to Marcy. Marcy getting it out the bottom. Marty. And he's got Radu Town under with him. And he has nobody in front of him.